We'll call this Police and Fire Committee to order at 5:36 on 9/29. All members are present. 9/28. Is that it? Okay. I'm sorry. All members are present. And first item on the agenda is the police department dispatching. With Mr. Kamgemi coming on board next week, we can discuss moving this down the line so that he can be up to speed to participate in that. I don't know how the other members feel.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't feel comfortable that enough time has gone by to address the concerns that were brought up at the previous council or the committee meeting. And I think we need to allow more time for the issues to continue to be investigated and resolved so that we can make a more informed decision, which would be the better option for the city to get at this point. So I'm in favor of moving this to the next subsequent committee meeting.
Okay.
And then with the new city manager, giving him an opportunity to get read into that and get his opinion as well.
I think it also gives the chief more time to do his role as chief and work with them.
Being unencumbered
So,
and acting.
I have another meeting with Chief Inskeep next Friday morning. And then also for some of those issues that have been brought up and addressed to her, she said needs some kind of resolutions that she had with dispatchers, and I can get those for you.
Yes, I'd like for you to share that in a public forum so everybody can see what progress has been made.
Yeah, and I appreciate the update on the most recent ones that you've received, and then that way we can continue to address those issues. Yeah, so I think I'm in favor of that too. That's fine. We'll push it down and then allow the new city manager to get. He's going to be in 50, so quick. So he will be in town tomorrow. Thanks. I'll split the time. Yeah, no, I think that's good.
Okay. Next item for discussion is police department cruisers. We are looking into the possibility of leasing the vehicles. I believe in the budget, we do have a place already to draw money from when we make the decision whether to purchase or lease. And kind of the same thing at this point.
Just if you're discussing possibly the ARPA funds,
Yes.
I don't know how that would apply with leasing. There might be complications with that.
Okay. Well,
But table, I don't have the answers table to help with that. But I feel like that would be a little more, might have some extra strings.
okay. I kind of think it's the same thing. Wait till Mr. Kamgemi's on board and we gather more information.
Right.
I agree with Chief on that. I think with the ARPA funds, because they're kind of, I don't think you can make ongoing payments with them. I think you'd have to pay for it all up front. So I think some of those you probably have to purchase, but it wouldn't necessarily be bad to have some purchased and then some leased potentially.
Right, I think the lease option gives us more flexibility. And if nothing else, we should at least hear from the leasing company that is doing that currently with other departments in our area. If they could give us a presentation on how that works, what it would look like. And I think it wouldn't apply just to the police cruisers, but also other city vehicles.
Correct.
So there's probably a range of possibilities that we haven't even looked at yet.
Yes, I made a phone call to Enterprise Leasing, and the person I talked to said we could set it up kind of all of the cart to fit our needs.
Right.
And I think that's why we should move it down the road
Yeah.
and look at it citywide what the options are.
Right. Is it possible to maybe get someone to come and present?
Yeah, they said they would do that once we kind of have a guideline where we want to
It
go.
could be something that actually we could kind of outsource all fleet management, to somebody that.
Well, I think it's in our best interest to compare what the cost would be. Sure. With several different options laid before us, and give us the biggest bang for the buck.
Okay. Moving on, next item, police department cruiser take-home policy. And
Do you need one for it?
I just read Greg's, but yeah, sure, that's the next one.
Yep, thank you.
so any comments on that?
Yeah, my opinion on take-home vehicles, is I don't know what the downside to that would be. I know several departments that have a take-home policy for their police vehicles for very prudent and merit-based reasons. So I'm in favor of us having some kind of policy. I don't know, what legal restrictions we would have to face on that, if there are any at all. I'm not familiar with them, and I need to be educated on why this would not be a good thing to do. I'm fully in favor of it. If there's no reason for us not to, I think we should do it.
Yeah, I don't think there's an issue necessarily with it. The challenge I have with it is how it came about, though, because I kind of feel like we could have used it as part of our negotiations for our contracts with them. It seemed to just kind of come up overnight, I felt like. So I wasn't on council at the time, but so now we've kind of lost that edge, I think, in terms of negotiations with that.
The
But
union representatives prefer not to bundle that into negotiations because
It is-
it's
it
kind
is.
of hard, so.
yeah, I mean, it is a perk
Aware
there.
that-
Benefit for them, but-
Yeah, they're, the union reps, both the union reps we've had or talking to, they've kind of said they prefer to leave it out. That way the department as well as the officers don't get back into a corner of, a bunch of vehicles suddenly go out of service and they take it away. It doesn't become a union grievance and it doesn't cause issues.
I think the only thing which this is on the agenda, I believe, I asked Mr. Clement to put it on there, was the GPS trackers. We
Yes,
purchased
that is
all
on
of those. We purchased that for all the vehicles across the city. I have no problem with it. We need to put those on all of the vehicles though.
I agree.
Because that way if we've had in the past accusations made against folks, we'd be able to have an ability to go and verify if there's any legitimacy to that. And I'm not saying it needs to be open to public record, necessarily, but the city manager should be on the track.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
And so this is the
The
only,
public record issue was brought up before by Mr. Toy, and basically said it does create a public record.
doesn't, I mean, it is what it is, so.
Somebody would have to show me that the cons outweigh the pros. Were adopted this kind of policy.
Yeah, I mean, did it ever get officially adopted?
Not that I.
So it was discussed and then I implemented it, back in January.
I was gonna say, last year you had talked about this. I didn't know whatever happened.
The only thing I would say that if anything needs to occur with it, then it's just, is look to see if there's other policies out there, if there's need to be any amendments to these. I mean, then that's,
Most of the sheriff's departments do that.
so that way they can update it.
Unfortunately, too, I think all of our officers live within a
Yeah,
very
almost
close
all of them live
ratio
in town. I
now.
think almost all of them live in town. One lives in Athens, one in Albany, one in Sugar Grove.
So Athens is, or Albany's probably the furthest drive, so yeah, that's still, it's not that clear. I would say that, there's gotta be some legal ramifications only if like they go from here to the bar kind of thing, that's an issue, but they wouldn't.
Well, again,
You know what I
we have
mean.
to find out what the other departments are dealing with, how they handle it. Joanne, you had a question?
But I don't think any of them will do that.
You kind of hit on it from there to the bar.
Right.
And does it include things in regard to personal use that aren't really business related to the being a policeman?
Yeah, I
Yeah, in this policy, it allows them, if they're on their way home, and they say have to stop at the bank or the store, they can do that. Most sheriff's offices allow that.
Okay.
It's pretty common, very common.
But not
There's
just a separate trip to go out.
No,
no,
It's
correct.
kind of like me with mine. If I'm doing something in town before I get home, I can do it in town before I go. Like I go to the gym, it's in Nelsonville. It doesn't make sense for me to drive all the way home and back down when I'm here 12 hours a day.
I just think that needs to be really clear, because I know people have asked me about it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not, I have no objections to it, I would just, I would just make sure that it's clear, concise, what their parameters are allowed to use them for, and then, and if there's, the trackers are on the cars, and there's never an issue until there's an issue, right? So I'm
How
fine.
many cruisers do we have?
That was
Um,
9.
9, yeah.
That's including the truck and the
Ten with the truck.
it would be the 10.
It's pretty good from whenever, a few years ago when we started, we had 2. 2.
And one of them was not.
One of them was
very
broke down. One was a Jeep.
good. Yeah, so,
You get a bicycle patrol.
we do have bicycles.
And a four-wheeler.
I guess I have a question. So has our city attorney reviewed this policy?
I'm pretty positive I sent it to him.
Okay.
I don't see myself not. You know, that kind of can sometimes go with the secretary.
Let's resend it to him tomorrow. I would say that'd be a good idea.
Well, and if we use an ordinance to pass it, it'd have to be reviewed by the law director.
That's true, yeah.
Correct. Okay, so we'll move this to looking into doing an ordinance.
What do we need to do in ordinance, since it's
Yes.
a policy for the day-to-day operations?
We talked to Bob Toy about that and asked him the legal ramifications of not doing it, in case there's an accident.
Well, and it takes the city manager out of liability in that standpoint, because the city, you know,
It is day-to-day
Council.
operations, but at the same time, it's city equipment.
Yeah, because I don't see anything in here referencing liability and or officers signing off on policy that they've read it, that kind of thing.
I did that in the office this morning.
Right, okay. So, just make sure we're covered.
Right.
Okay. Next thing is the continuous parking ordinance. We had a citizen raise concerns about that. I believe, Chief Oliver, you can maybe update what's happened this week.
Yeah, so I believe last time we were discussing it, there was an issue brought about where they wanted an exception added to it, that if someone goes on vacation or is medically ill or gonna be in the hospital for an extended period of time and can't comply with the ordinance on themselves, just due to those unforeseen circumstances, they can notify us, as in the police department, and kind of writing or just inform us that there's gonna be a reason why the car is not moved, so they don't get cited. I forgot to bring the ordinance with me tonight. I'll forward it to you guys in an email, but I added that to it as well. Otherwise, the change from the current ordinance was changing it from 24-hour to 72 hours, so 3 days instead of 2. Made it clear in the ordinance that you're subject to fining for vehicle removal, so vehicles being towed, if you're in violation of the ordinance.
And we would fine before we remove them, assuming, correct? Yeah.
Okay. So this is something we should send to the attorney to make the changes for the ordinance and bring it forward if the committee's in favor of that at the next meeting.
So we're amending the current ordinance,
Nope, that's probably the easiest way to do it, just make sure that other,
or rescinding one?
what's that,
Amending or rescinding?
amending,
Okay.
just changing the current ordinance, that way the number doesn't.
Right, okay, yeah. No, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too. I think,
Then also, for that ordinance, my guys use a lot of discretion. It's not like they're gonna be deciding and towing people who have their cars parked right in front of their house.
Right.
It's so for the junk vehicles and those sorts of things.
I mean, I'm around the city a lot. I see potential violations and issues. I saw a flat tire on my vehicle today I feel like some of the complaints though are just kind of, I feel like they're targeting a little bit. I would discourage that, you know, I mean, so I think that there's a gentleman who's been working on his truck. He's got it jacked up. He's changing his brakes on it. He does not have a driveway. You know, I mean, I think that there's, you know,
That goes back to the officer discretion.
yes, I would say, and I would hope we would do that.
There has to be some common sense at play.
Yeah, and just to say this again, this problem has been going on for quite some time.
Years.
And yeah, so I appreciate Chief Tolliver, getting a handle on this.
And I think that the amendments that you made to it, I think they're good amendments, so.
And then
That was
maybe,
Officer Bale came up with the.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Very good. Stepping up, I like.
maybe, I don't know, just to answer some of the questions from the public, when you do your department update, council meeting, maybe if you could just include how many cars were cited, how many were towed as a result.
Yeah, we already do a metric for citations on it, so it's on there.
That way we're answering the mail.
Okay, moving on, Chief Barber, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so, just to revisit, so everybody's on the same page, if we could talk about the fire department staffing and what you had proposed.
Yes. So right now, we currently have a staffing ordinance that allows for 13 part-time firefighters. What we have found is all of our part-time firefighters have more than one other job. The way we staff right now, we allow those firefighters to work all the open shifts and work any shifts that come up for immediate coverage. It's cheaper for us to work our part-time, obviously, than it is to work our full-time. So what I propose is go from a staffing ordinance that allows for 13 to a staffing ordinance that allows for 20 part-time firefighters. That does not add to the shifts that are worked. It does not add to coverage on the shifts. The only thing it does is add to available firefighters that we can pull from in the event of open shifts or emergency coverage for a shift.
So we're not adding billables.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So you're not adding billables, it's the same time, same coverage, just who we actually put in those boots will be whoever.
That is correct. The only, yes,
So, but there are some
that is correct.
expenses, though, correct? I mean, like as far as allowances for uniforms?
we have a $300 uniform allowance for part-time firefighters, which would mean adding to my firefighter roster would account for $2,100 in uniform allowance to what my current budget is now. And when I talked with the auditor, we were trying to figure out BWC coverage. It was so minimal, he could not give me numbers. So really, the only expense we have is going to be uniform allowance and rare occasions when we have an all-call, we might have another member come in or a couple members come in and then pay at their hourly rate. So it's a very minimal impact to the budget. It wasn't on the staffing orders when we had the first draft for the budget. I would recommend that if we're going to do this, that we go ahead and add the 2,100 to the budget. That way it's black and white and those uniform allowances actually are reflected on the 2024 budget proposal.
Hey, Chief, in your budget, is the part-timers allowance, is that a separate line item versus or is it commingled with the full-time uniform allowance?
The payroll, it's all joined.
It's all, okay, it's just allowance, it's just
Yes.
allowance, yeah, okay. And how many, when you do have an all-call, about how many of your part-timers actually, how many of them actually come on a call, approximately?
If we have an all-call, maybe one or two, because most of my part-timers work 3 to 4 other jobs or they're students.
Okay.
So, so the all-call doesn't gain a lot of, it's not like we flood the gates when an all-call is dropped.
And how many part-timers do you have on your roster now?
Right now, we have 11.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay. Is there a recommendation to, change the ordinance and move it to 20 part-timers from 13?
I mean, do you have enough part-timers that I mean, if you're at 11 now and your max is 13, I mean, do you have enough to fill 20 spots?
Well, we'll have to do some more advertising, but that brings up another question. Do we have a full civil service committee? I would assume we don't if we did not do a police chief test.
Yeah, that I
But
don't know.
if we don't, we need to have a full committee because I have provisional appointments right now that will expire on December 20th. What I didn't want to do was get into the habit of putting members on and allowing their time to lapse.
Yeah.
So if we don't do that, I need to go ahead and schedule a test for my provisional members that I have.
I also need a civil service school test.
Okay, do you know if we have a full civil service?
I know Terry Coons was on there, but then he switched to a different committee, and there was a woman whose name I can't think of right now, Harry, that you helped me get in touch with too, for the last test we did.
Yes, I think she's still on the committee, but I thought Terry was going to stay on the committee to help with the last test, and then he was going to a different committee. And I'm not sure if the city, and there's been a lot, of stuff that's been going on, so I'm not sure if the city actually filled these positions or not.
Yeah. I mean, that's a concern. We need to get that filled. I agree, Harry. I don't think you'd want to get more guys on your roster and then not be able to keep them, you know, that's kind of counterproductive.
Maybe we need to take care of that.
Yeah, okay. I think we need to fill, how many spots is that? Is it 5?
There's 3, if I remember correctly.
So there's 3.
Civil services.
Yeah, there's 3 positions.
And we have potentially 2 now.
I think it's only.
2 would be enough for a test.
I think you only have 1 on the commission now.
Only 1 now?
I know for a fact Terry was appointed to a different
Okay,
committee, because I remember that meeting that happened.
Well, I would say we could definitely ask the auditor to put the additional $2,100 in the budget, so that's approved within the budget. And then we have to do a staffing ordinance every year anyway, so we still have time if we need to adjust the staffing ordinance for next year. And then, but we need to resolve that civil service issue, not only for our, but for Chief Culver as well, so. And then I would say we just push the staffing, discussion down the road right now until we get the other things resolved.
So there's a solution to this issue. Instead of pushing it down the road and not allowing for shifts to be covered at a lower rate of pay, what we can do is pay attention to the 6-month dates that we have, take those members down for a pay period where they have a break in service, then bring them back up into provisional or part-time status. We've done that in the past as well. That keeps us compliant with the 6-month rule, and it keeps us getting shifts covered
I'm sorry,
at a lower rate of pay.
I lost you there real quick. Can you repeat that? I didn't quite understand that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have to pay attention to the 6-month rule for part-time and provisional, okay?
Okay.
So the way we can get around that is we can take members that we bring at provisional or part-time, because part-time can't go past 6 months. Provisional usually is based on a passing test score, okay? What we can do is break in service for those employees. So there's a service break, and then bring them back up on the roster, which we can start the temporary process over. Which we've had to do that in the past as well because of not having adequate civil service committee members. The point here is to try to get additional staff that we can use to cover these open shifts to where we minimize overtime, because that was the whole point of doing this in the first place, and have more available members to pull from.
okay. Any thoughts from the committee?
We can reset the clock. We don't need to adjust the staffing ordinance for that, though. I mean, because we just have to just give them a break of service, whatever length of
Yeah,
time.
and that's a
may be.
temporary solution until we can figure out.
Correct.
Yeah, we're trying to add to that pool of available firefighters, not just reset their clock.
Yeah.
And this was already approved by committee once.
I don't know. As long as we address them. Take care of them.
All right, gentlemen, as we're almost to the end.
Yeah, we're right there close. So we're in favor of doing what?
A partial break in service for those members that are getting close to the 6-month rule. And then we need to resolve the civil service issue. So
Before we do the staffing ordinance.
yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I agree, that would be a good way to go. Okay, real quick, Harry, we only got just a moment left here. Fire permits, Mr. Taylor, would you like to address that?
I just think we should put the permit on the website. We have pretty much all of our other permits online. I think it needs to be something that needs to be online, just for more transparency.
We're doing it for all the other.
Even, you know, I even looked at other cities have it on there too, so I think all of our
Right.
comments.
I like that idea as well.
Okay. Do we have any time left?
You got one, you can go over if you've got something else.
All
That's
right.
fine.
One more thing.
Just for you.
All right, thank you.
I don't start till 6:15, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, we gave 45 minutes.
Oh, we did?
We did?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was a half
I
hour.
thought it was half hour.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it says a half hour. It says, well, anyway, one last thing. The code enforcement vehicle.
Oh, yeah,
I think it's beautiful.
So there was,
So rocket, red rocket.
yes.
Another reason we should explore the leasing option.
Correct. So there was a comment made at our meeting Monday night about the code enforcement vehicle. I'm gonna kind of put, Mr. Tolliver on the spot. Can you, address the condition of that vehicle?
I mean, it's a mid-90s S10, so it's not perfect, but it's AC works, brakes work, drives fine.
Wasn't the suspension rebuilt in front of that?
There was a lot done to it.
Yeah, I have about $900.
The mechanic told me who worked on it that he wouldn't be afraid to drive it anymore.
So it's safe then.
Yeah, it's safe. Bill has no major complaints about it.
Okay, so we can visit that if we see what our options are when it comes to potentially leasing or moving a vehicle down to the fleet to that position.
I agree. Yeah, we're already gonna be exploring, other options for our vehicles, I think. I think that we should wait until the new city manager gets, implemented, and then we'll do it all at once, I think, so.
Yeah.
Because I think that way we can also take into account all vehicles across the
Do a
board.
total
Yeah,
evaluation.
yeah, absolutely. We should have a better, inventory, I think, of all of our vehicles across the city. And where they're at, the status of them, and then move forward. Even fire trucks, like we've got a couple fire trucks that still we're still making payments on, but we need to really kind of look, when are those payments gonna be due? And then there needs to be a implementation of a process too, to replace those as well. So I mean, with all of our vehicles, we'll need to be doing the same thing.
It seems like there was a lack in time because a lot of our trucks back there are 12s and 13s. So I mean, they're 10 years old.
Yeah,
We need to look at that.
and also at this point, the code enforcement officer is a part-time position.
Mhm.
So could you potentially, how many miles a month we're putting on that vehicle?
I don't know, I haven't inquired about that, but I'll have him track it or log it somehow.
Okay,
We can start doing that.
yeah, just, we don't want somebody out there in an unsafe vehicle, but it sounds like,
Especially your code enforcement officer.
for sure.
Do you know about how many miles?
We don't want a tow truck sitting on the side of the road making a phone call. So, all right, well, it doesn't sound like it's a critical issue at this point. All right, any other things from the committee?
I don't think so.
Then,
Nothing further.
okay, we made it to the agenda. Any comments from citizens?
I like the attention you're giving to them, because I think it's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we shall adjourn this meeting at 6:04.